Good morning. Um, actually, it's evening for me, but maybe you'll see this in the morning. Um, okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about the basic need and necessity for layers in Photoshop. Okay, so to this point, we haven't really discussed the tools in the toolbar, and that's okay. We will get there in our next few lessons. Initially, it's very important that you understand the general layout of Photoshop and then how layers work. So, Photoshop is a terrific application that allows us to manipulate and make image corrections, color corrections, whatever, to any image that we may have. Now, one of the neat things about Photoshop is that it keeps a good and accurate history of whatever we're working on. And we can, therefore, we can make edits and make changes to an image in what is called a non-destructive way. And when I say non-destructive, I mean, for example, this would be an example of a destructive format. I come to my eraser and I'm going to erase a chunk of this image. Okay, that is what we call a destructive edit. Okay, now why is that bad? Well, we can't ever really replace this. We can't bring it back. And once it's gone, using things like the eraser tool, it's kind of gone. Now, we can use to some effect the history brush tool, but even now it's saying I can't use the history brush. Sometimes the history brush tool can bail us out, and other times it doesn't. In this case, it won't. So how do I get back to that? Well, in this case, I can hold down Command and hit Z, and I can just undo one step in my history. But what happens if, I'm just doing a whole bunch of junk here real quick. We're a bunch of edits deep here. And, you know what? I want to go back, Well, I can't. I can't undo one step and redo another. So it gets to be a little bit problematic, this destructive editing format. Okay, so instead of doing destructive edits, we work non-destructively. Okay, so the first thing that we should do whenever we open an image in order to work non-destructively is to duplicate our layer. Now, there are three ways to duplicate. The first way, and the way that I like to do it best, is to hold down Command or Control on a Windows machine and hit J. So by selecting my background layer here, I can hold down Command and hit J, and then I get a duplicated layer here. And that's one way. The other way is to right-click on a layer and then just select Duplicate Layer. It's going to ask you what you want it here, and we'll click OK. And the last way is to drag that layer down to this plus sign down here on the bottom, bottom of your screen. Okay, so we'll do it that way. Let me zoom back out. You drag it down to the plus sign and drop it, and it will do a copy. Now, I like to work with keyboard shortcuts because I think they're generally the fastest way to work, and time is money. So I will hold down Command J, and that will duplicate my layer. Now, sometimes I will work by turning off visibility of this background layer and just pretend that this is my primary layer. So now, if I were to erase this, okay, it is erasing, which is destructive, but it's not destroying my background layer, it's destroying my top layer. You see? And if I want to restore a part of that image, I totally can by sampling there again. Oh, it won't let me. That's okay. But you can see that we can always get back to an original copy if we're working on copies. Okay. Now, layers, to sort of define them a little bit and help us understand how they look and how they work. Layers work from sort of a top-down perspective, meaning that the layer that's on top is the layer that we will see represented out here in the canvas. Now, let's maybe play with that idea just a little bit. I'm going to do two copies here. So I'm going to have background copy and then background copy 2. Now, background copy 2 here, I am going to, on this top copy here, I'm going to use my brush. The keyboard shortcut is B. And I am going to just paint on this layer real quick here. Why isn't that going any smaller? That's okay. That's very small. And I will just write, scratch disks are full. That's terrible. Well, we might have a problem. Let's free up some space here. Excuse me, my computer's kind of running at max capacity already. Let's try that. See if that'll work. Yeah, okay, sweet. There we go. So I'm just going to write my name here on this top layer. And you can see, if I zoom in over here, you can see that that layer is what's on the canvas out here is represented here in the thumbnail. All right. And if I shuffle these, if I put this layer below that layer, all of a sudden I can't see it. Okay? Because it's on the second layer, which is below the top layer. So again, layers just work. They're organized so that whatever is on the top is what we will see. Now, when I go to save this as a JPEG, it will not save the John there on that second layer. What it does is it takes a top-down view and it takes a little snapshot of it, and then it makes a new image based on everything that's there. So if I put this on top and save it as a JPEG, it would save it there. If I do it this way, it's just going to look like the original image. Now, layers have their own profiles and settings. And those we can really see live right here. This is the type of layer that it will be. We'll cover this later. It's okay. And then this is how dark or clear the layer will be. This is called opacity. So if I lower the opacity here a little bit, you will start to see that layer from below coming through. And the lower my opacity is, the clearer that will become. Okay, so a lot of information here today, really, truly, and most of which might be a little bit complicated. I am kind of a fan of hitting you hard and fast with Photoshop stuff because I want you to be good at it. And so it's kind of a baptism by fire. I kind of just hit you with it hard so that by the second or third week, you guys are already pretty much pros. So we're going to cover tools here in the next video. And then we should now have a pretty basic understanding of how layers work. Okay, see you on the other side.